Hello guys, my name is Gavin, and I'm just here to tell you guys I've decided to make a Blender FPS tutorial series. As you can see right here, I plan on making this a 5-video series, and in video 1, which I'm about to do right now, it's going to be pretty much a basic character movement with the WASD keys, and there's going to be a mouse look script we're going to create for it. In the second video, we're going to be displaying health and ammo and creating a simple gun. In the third video, we're going to be creating pickup items, and we're also going to be animating the gun. In the fourth video, we'll be making a simple enemy. We're just going to do one enemy type, and there will be an enemy respawn point. We're also going to be making a game timer, so the game will restart once the timer runs out. So it's going to be pretty much kind of like this game mode, where it's just like, see how many enemies you can get before the game runs out. And then the last video, we're going to be making a simple game map for our game, and that will probably be the end of the project. If I have anything else I'm going to add, I will add that later on. But alright, since we got this going, I'm just going to get started. So, with your Blender file open, double-click the A button until everything is selected and hit X and delete. Hit Shift and C to bring your crosshair back to the middle. Do spacebar and add a cube like this. Since we want to actually add a camera now, let's hit 1 and go into our go into front view by hitting the 1 key. Let's do spacebar and then add a camera like this. As you can see, we can drag this camera up above our player, and with our camera still selected, let's hit the Shift key and right-click on our cube and hit Control and P and parent it to the object. So if we drag the cube down, the camera will follow. Let's now create a mouse look script for our camera by going from defaults to game logic and going from Blender render to Blender game. Now, on our camera, what we're going to do is right-click on it, and let's add a mouse sensor. This mouse sensor, we are going to rename it as mouse lowercase. Click these first 3 buttons right here, and let's change this to movement for the mouse event. Once we have that, let's add a controller Python like this and connect it. And on our camera, what we're going to do is add a motion actuator. And we're going to do ROTX because we want to have the camera rotate on the x-axis for our mouse look script. And I'm going to hit Shift and right click. And on our cube now, let's add a motion actuator. Connect it like this. And let's name it as ROTZ. And if you're confused what we're going to do, what's essentially going to happen is the reason why the camera has the rotation on the x-axis is that we want the camera to rotate up and down like this, whereas we want the cube to rotate side to side like this, which is why we have these actuators set up the certain way we do. Alright, let's now create a template by doing templates, Python, and then game logic simple, like this. I'm going to drag this out, and I'm going to delete the portion that I've highlighted right here, and hit Control and scroll up on your mouse to make your text larger. I'm going to rename this as mouselook.py, that will be the new name of our script, and add this right here. What we now want to do is import a few things for our mouse look, because it does involve a lot more things than just your average script. Let's first import mathutils. Then from mathutils, import vector like this. And now what we're going to do is import the render from the BGE. So let's do from render import from BGE, import render. Next, let's define our mouse sensor and our 2 actuators inside of our script. So let's do mouse is going to equal const.sensors mouse like this, and ROTX is going to equal const.actuators ROTX, and ROTZ is going to equal const.actuators ROTZ. What we now want to do is actually activate these actuators within our script. So let's do const.activate ROTX and then const.activate ROTZ. What we're now going to do is define the screen center. So let's get the x coordinates. So x is going to equal render.get window width divided by 2. So it's going to get the middle of the screen on the x-axis. And y is going to equal render.get window height divided by 2. And it's going to get the, pretty much if we're in our camera view by hitting 0, the x is going to get this way, whereas the y is going to get this way. Let's now create a variable called screen center, which will be x comma y. Like that. What we're now going to do is make a vector out of this. So let's do the variable center is going to equal vector screen center. Like that. Next, what we're going to do is get the vector of the mouse position. So let's have mouse position is going to equal vector mouse.position. And the reason why we want to have these as vectors is because it's it makes it easier to rotate our camera. It makes it more clean when we rotate it. What we're now going to do is get the mouse position minus the center, and that's how we're going to rotate our camera, is getting the offset. So if we move our mouse from the center, that's going to rotate our camera a little bit. So what we are going to do is have the variable offset is going to equal the mouse position minus the center. I'm going to times this by negative 0.002, because if we don't do that, it's going to run the camera backwards, and so by timesing it by this negative number, it's going to run it the way we want, and it's going to look fine. What we are now going to do is rotate our camera and our cube accordingly based off of this offset variable. Let's have rotx.drot like this is going to equal to offsets.y, 0, 0. Then rotz.drot is going to equal 0, 0, then offsets.x. Now, in case you guys find this confusing, the rotation on the z-axis, we're going to have it rotate on the z-axis right here. And the rotation on the x-axis, we're going to have it rotate on the x-axis right here by the offset of the y and x values. And as you can see right here, something I always do to help me remember whether or not what to rotate on is if it's rotation x, then the rotation x variable is not going to have the x value. So it's not going to be rotx, it's not going to be offset.x, but it's going to be offset.y. What we're now going to do is do render.setMousePosition to bring our cursor back to the middle. And we're going to set it back to the x, y, because that's what we defined as the screen center. Okay, now that we have that, if we were to hit P now, we should see our character is going to rotate from side to side like this. And if I do spacebar and then add a plane like this, drag this plane down and do S and 20, I hit 0 now, whoops, not 200, S 20, like that. If I were to hit 0 to go into our camera view, you can see if I move the camera around, it's going to look like this. And if you want to have your mouse variable be visible, if you want to have your mouse be visible, do render.showMouse and then 1 like this. So our mouse should now be visible. If you guys are having any errors with your mouse look script, do window and then toggle system console, and that'll come up with your terminal window. You can check for errors in there. Next, what we're going to do is right click on our cube. And I'm going to rename this cube as player since it is our player object. And let's give this player character physics, so click on the physics tab and change it from static to character and click actor. Oops. I'm going to drag this in, and we can see now that if we lift our player up, he's going to drop onto the floor, or we can't really see it, but he's going to drop like that. I'm going to apply a simple color to it, so click on the materials tab, and let's make our color cube blue. So he drops like that. Alright, if we want to actually rotate our character, we're just going to use logic bricks for this, so no more Python for this video. Some of you may like that. Let's add 4 keyboard sensors, 2, 3, and then 4. This first one right here, I'm going to rename it as W key. For the key, let's put W. For the second one, let's put S key. And for this, let's put S. And for this third one, let's put A key. Let's put A in here. And for this last one, let's put D key. And let's put D in here. Minimize this. Let's now add 4 motion actuators to our player. So make sure it says player, not camera. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And once we have that, what we're going to do is rename this to forward. I'm going to put 0.2 on the y-axis. For this next one, let's put backward. And let's do negative 0.2 on the y-axis. Let's then do left. And for the x-axis, let's put negative 0.2 like this. And for this last one, let's put right. And let's put 0.2 on the positive x-axis. So what we're going to do now is we're going to drag the W key one to forward, like this. Drag the S key one to backwards, like this. Drag the A key one to left. And let's drag the D key to right. And if we hit 0 now and hit play, we can see that if I move the mouse forward, we can see our character is going to look like this. He is moving around, and if we hit P now, you can see we can move him around like this, and he'll turn depending on where we move the mouse around. Okay guys, this is part 1 of how to make your FPS game in Blender. I hope you found this useful. If you guys like this video, please leave a like, and if you want to get more updates, please subscribe. I'll leave a link to part 2 in the top right corner. Thanks for watching again.